Hello everyone. So today we are going to get into a little more deep in Unity 3D programming. In the last tutorial, what we did was that printing the start function and the update function, that how many times and when the start or update function calls. Okay. So whatever we learned in the last tutorial, I would request you, if you're new to this and you haven't uh, watch the last one. I would recommend you to watch it before it if you don't know about the start function and update function, so you will know that. And so in this tutorial, we are going to get into a little more deep in what the Unity 3D programming is all about. So first of all, we are going to delete this, and I'm gonna give you a little bit tutorial on what are some of the data types and functions and things that we can do in Unity 3D. And in this tutorial, we will cover the movement of our character. Okay, so how we are going to move our character in the very easy way that you, and I will also teach you what the code actually means, and let's get started. So before we do that, I would like you to know about some of the data types like float, int, and char and string. These are the characters that we are going to use in our game. These four data types we are going to use in our game. So what it means is the float float is a data type which stores the value in dot, in decimal point. Okay, so if it is a float, it can store 5.5, but if it is int, which means integer, it can't store 5.5, it can only store 5 or 6. Okay, so if it is a char, it can store a character which is like an s, a bigger s. Okay, but only one character at a time. So, and if it is string, it can store a string, like it can store a name, it can store any name. Okay, so these are the four things that I would like you to know. And now there is a thing which is public and private. The difference between public and private is whenever you create a data type which is float, it can be created in a private way or a public way. Now, the difference between public and private is, as you can say by the name, the private will stay hidden, like it will, you cannot access the variable outside the code. Okay, for example, if we create a private float with a name, we have to give a name whenever we create any variable. So let's just say it's a float, so let's just say we give it a name. It's a float. That's the name of our data type. Okay, so we created a variable name, it's a float, which is a data type of float, and which is also a private. So whenever we go to our Unity editor and we play, let's just say play the game. Okay, so now we have a script here. We have a script on our cube. Okay, and as you can see on the script, there is nothing other than a script. It's just written gf script and the name. Okay, but let's just change it to public, and now let's see. Now we have a float which we can edit right in the editor. So we don't have to put a particular value in the script. We can change it in the game while it's running or while it's not running. Okay, so that is a easy way to edit your variables values in the editor. And if it's a private, then you have to give it a value over here, like just a 3.4. And okay, so whenever you give it a float value, you have to write f at the end, so it won't give you an error because it's a float for f. But for other integer and strings, you don't have to do that. So now to edit this value, you can't do this from the editor because it's not here, because it's private. You have to edit the value either in the start function or in the update function. Okay, so but we are going to just create a public, so we'll have it right here, so we can edit it anytime we want. Okay, now we know that what is float, the same as int, is just the name you have to change, or you can write any name actually. I'll just say name this thing. Okay, but you can't put decimal and integer. It is only for float. Okay, no decimal points. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we want to create, well, we want a character to move. Let's just delete this for a second. Now Unity 3D is actually has actually created a lot of things, so it will help us to do most of our things without making our brain look crazy. Okay, for example, there are some input variables that they created, like horizontal, vertical, mouse x, mouse y. Now they have like jump. Okay, jump. So keyboard these are some keyboard, mouse and joystick values. Okay, so we are going to use these values. So if you want your character to move left or right using the arrow keys or the A or D on your keyboard, you can just use the name horizontal and it will move left or right. But how are we gonna do that? Okay, so we can't do that in our input function. We can't do that in our start function here because it will only run once. We want our character to move anytime we press a particular key. Okay, so we have to do that in update function. How are we gonna do it? Let's just say this is the code. I'm gonna give you a brief description of what it is. Input dot get axis. Now here's what we write horizontal. That's the code that will make our character move. And now what is this? The simple code. Okay, what it means is when we input, now input, when the update function gets a horizontal key, this is the key, this is the keyword, this is the axis keyword. Okay, if we change this horizontal to a, from a to r, it will not work. Okay, so this needs to be correctly written here. So if the if a A or D key is pressed or an arrow key is pressed, it will get the input of this axis and return a value. Now what will be the value? We don't know that. So how are we gonna do it? Debug.log, and now we are going to get a value. So we press A. First of all, we press A. Okay. Now we press A. Okay, we can't get into console at the same time, so we are going to press A. Now it's giving the value. The maximum value is -1, and it will increase as long as you press it. Now I'm still pressing it, so it's stuck at -1. But whenever now, and I will just leave the A key, and it stopped, and it got back to 0. Now I'm gonna press D. Okay, so it's 1. Okay, so now we know that this code is returning a value. Now how are we gonna move our character with that? Okay, first of all, the 1 and -1 is the maximum and minimum value. The 0 and 1, or the 0 and the -1, is the minimum or maximum value of this horizontal axis. Okay, so the maximum it can go is 1 or -1. The minimum it will go is 0. Okay, so now it is actually very um, easy to understand now, because okay, sorry, yeah. So now what we're gonna do is we want our character to move with the same speed. Okay, the maximum speed would be 1 or -1, the minimum would be 0, as long as we press the keys. Now now we know that the horizontal axis is giving us a value which is in decimal points. So what we need to do is we need to store this value into a float, because the float is stores in decimal points. So we are going to create a public float and give it a name. How are we going to get a name? The name would be character value, or let's just say horizontal value. Now horizontal, okay. Now with this line of code, the input.getAxis, the value of horizontal will get into horizontal value on this float. Let's just check if it actually stores it. Now we know there is a horizontal value. We're going to get it on, and now it's 0. Okay, but we're going to press A. Okay, -1. We'll leave the A. I'm gonna press D. 1. We're gonna leave it. It's back to 0. Now we have stored a value in the horizontal value. Now how are we gonna move our character? Okay, so how do we move our character here? So for that we have a method called transform.translate. Now it stores 3 values, which is x, y, z. Okay, so these are the values. We are going to fill in these values what we want our character to move, where our character to move. Now this function will move our character or object at a speed of, let's just say, if you write 2 on the x-axis. Now this method will change our object position by 2 units every frame. So if the update function here is it runs around 60 FPS. Okay, let's just say our computer runs on a 60 FPS, then our object will 50 FPS per second. Okay, so then our object will change its position to 60 multiplied by 2 is equal to 120 units. Okay, so if our object position is, let's just say, 10 on the x-axis, then it will change from 10 to 120, 130 actually, because 120 units in 1 second. Okay, so if our object position is, let's just say, okay, if our object position is 10, okay, it will move from 10 to 130. Okay, from 10 to 130 in 1 second. Okay, so it's too fast, but let's just say we'll see what the speed is, and we don't want to change our x and y axis, so sorry, y and z axis, so we are going to keep it 0, and we're going to play it. Okay, where is our character? Okay, it's moving with a very fast speed, so it's too fast, so we are going to give it a 0.1 float. So whenever we write a decimal, so we write the f in the end, so to make it a float, to address it as a float. So now we have a cube object. It's moving slowly, okay, but it's automatically moving. We don't want our character to automatically move, so what we're going to do is we're going to change our value to horizontal value, the value of our axis, which we get when we press A or D or the left and right arrow key. Now let's just say, first of all, we can't see our object, so we are going to change it to, now can we see? Yes. Okay, now we are going to play this, and we're going to play A and press A. Okay, it's moving. It's speedy a little, but it's moving. Okay, so whenever we press, it's moved. So we're going to try the arrow keys. Yes, it's moving. We are going to try the A, W, and S and front and back arrow keys, but it's not moving. Only the left and right moving. Okay, so that's all for today. I'm gonna get into deep in this section of the time thing in the later tutorial. In the next tutorial, we are going to change the value, change the position of our object on the W and S keys with the W and S keys. Okay, and that's all for today.